This is the Defenders podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're back with Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 5, The Grand Design.
Whoever he was working with, they're going to kill him when he's inside.
Yeah, that might be the definition of consequences.
But does the punishment fit the crime?
Crimes past, present, or future?
So you think we should ignore it?
Ignore what?
It's our job to represent our clients to the best of our abilities. Suppressing evidence.
Objection. Suppressing is questionable. One might even say inflammatory phrasing in this particular instance, counselor.
Aren't you supposed to be the Catholic one here?
Oh, come on. All right, so fine. You want to go with guilt now?
How about mercy? There's got to be something about that in the Bible. Second chances, redemption. All I know is if he goes to jail, he dies.
And all I know is that might not be our problem.
Unfortunately, it is now.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders, to Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 5 on TV Podcast Industries. I am one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow Defenders. I am your other host, John. Welcome back to our coverage of Daredevil Born Again Season 2.
Absolutely. We don't mention it often enough about our theme tune, John. That the theme tune that we're using for our Daredevil coverage we've had for 11 years, and it was written by our awesome mate, Ollie Mack. Who is
absolutely.
Otherwise known as
Mississippi MacDonald.
Yep. And otherwise known as multi-UK Blues Award-winning artist,
exactly.
Mississippi Mac.
Yes.
So go out and check out Ollie MacDonald's stuff if you like the blues. He has some great music and he's touring at the moment. Go check him out. Tell him that TV Podcast Industry sent you, and John sent you specifically because he knows us very, very well.
Yes. I used to go to university with him.
You share a house with him when you were in Manchester, didn't you?
I certainly did, yes.
So, yeah.
All good. So
Yes.
definitely, fellow Defenders, a little recommendation from us. Not too often that we put them out there, but for certainly not around music. But if you like the blues, maybe it's someone to check out.
Well, we really should be saying it often because it was very good of him to do the awesome tune that he did, and now he's in the UK Blues Hall of Fame as of this year, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah,
excellent.
So our award-winning theme tune provider, Ollie MacDonald.
Exactly.
I love it. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, make sure you pop on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com or over at defenderstvpodcast.com, where all of our Marvel coverage sits, and you can subscribe to the podcast there for any of the shows that we're covering. We do want to hear your thoughts on all the shows as we're going through them. You can email us to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com, of course, or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. And you can also join us on our Discord, where we're getting lots and lots of feedback over there on each of the episodes that we cover, the details of which are in the show notes right here as well. Speaking of feedback, since we recorded it early last week and we're recording a bit later this week, we have feedback on episode 4 and episode 5, John. So I'm going to kick off with our feedback on episode 4 first, go into our coverage of episode 5, and then talk about the feedback on episode 5. How's that work?
Excellent stuff.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to kick off with some voicemail feedback from Harrison Fox.
Hello, fellow Defenders. Harrison Fox here, first time calling in. I just wanted to say that this last episode of Daredevil, Born Again Season 2, Episode 4, was phenomenal from beginning to end. I don't think I've been on the edge of my seat for a TV show as much as I was those last few minutes during the Fisk fight. And then when you see that shard of glass in Vanessa's head, it's like, oh my God. Just wanted to call in, say you guys do a fantastic job. I just recently discovered you, and I have flown through a lot of your back catalog. I just want to throw a theory out. I think that BB is going to meet her end at the hands of Daniel as a parallel to how Ben met his fate at the hands of Wilson. Just throwing that out there. I don't know. I feel like anything can happen on this show. But, just wanted to throw that out there. Say you guys are doing an awesome job. I love listening to you. And, thanks so much for all the content.
Thanks so much to you, Harrison. It's great to hear from you.
Yeah, great stuff, Harrison. Loving the first name as it coincides with my surname.
Yes.
So, great stuff. And I love that theory because I have thought about that myself. I've not articulated it because I kind of don't want to believe that another Ulrich will meet a sort of a nasty end. And I think you're right in terms of who will do it, and that will mirror Fisk and Ben Ulrich. But I just wonder whether Karen might just get there in the nick of time this time. Because,
that would be quite cool, actually.
Alas, yes, I've had those same kind of troubling thoughts, I guess, in terms of that theory. So, yeah, really good.
All I could think of when I was listening to your voicemail, Harrison, was, I can't wait to hear what Harrison has to say about episode 5, because if you're on the edge of your seat, you're in episode 4. There's stuff going on in episode 5, specifically around Daniel, which we'll talk about later on, that I was absolutely, I don't know whether, is there any further than the edge of your seat? I was on the floor watching it. So thanks so much for your feedback. I know we have another voicemail in from you for episode 5, which I'm really looking forward to hearing as well.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, Harrison. Also on episode 4, by email, Coffee and Vodka says, "Greetings, fellow pugilistic defenders. With so many ballast characters, they did not just fridge Vanessa. Though without her presence, the governor has no vested interest to allow Red Hook's charter to exist. Not a great trade-off, but there it is. To start the show with visceral violence to the musical strains of Billy Joel on the day of The Boys Season 5 premiere, design or serendipity? Either way, happy to see everyone's favourite sharpshooter. As well, it looks like we've got one unhappy Agent Shaggy, a suddenly disenchanted ringside populace at the petulant brutality of Wilson Fisk. Strong as his position is, you can see the banana peels mounting, as this and some of the best action of the season spread throughout this blown powder keg of an episode. The only glaring thing was Matt and Karen not having seen that end of their star witness coming a mile off. Beyond this, all aces. 5 great shakes, disguised devils, and bookshot out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka." Thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka, for the feedback. Yes, I think certainly their star witness should have been a little better protected. But equally, you would say that having marshals come and collect him, that he was relatively protected.
It's 2 federal marshals for somebody that would be involved in taking down the mayor of New York. Like, the mayor of New York is a massive position. You'd imagine that there would be a whole squadron of people that would come.
Yeah, not just 2 people.
Not just 2 guys, you know. And, you know, I kind of, in my head, originally when we watched the episode, I was going, how do they know for definite these are 2 marshals? Did they just, you know, hand over just some fake IDs and take him away, and then they were going to hand them over to Buck on the other end? I actually wasn't expecting the 2 of them were going to get shot, and then he was going to get shot. I wasn't expecting that was the way it was going to play out. So, but yes, they absolutely should have seen it. But I do think that they gave his testimony through Kirsten McDuffie, so they have that recorded at least. So while they have gotten to the witness and have taken him out, it feels like at least they have some backup of what he said, and may make it even more of a loaded gun now that he's dead, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or disappeared.
I think, they at least got his kind of statement on record with a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I guess the marshals were organized through Kirsten's legal office, so they knew, you know, that kind of procedure, certainly for a very sensitive witness dealing with, a fairly prominent potential case. So, it's just, you think, maybe more vans, and even more marshals.
Well, yeah, whole SWAT team should have helped. Great stuff. Thanks so much for your email, of course, Coffee and Vodka. We also have a voicemail in from Steve Brown on episode 4.
Hello, TV podcast industries. This is Steve, and this is for Daredevil Born Again, season 2, episode, is it 4? Yeah, gloves off. Wow, what a great episode. I podcasted with it, or I talked about it with my podcast partner, Mark, on Saturday, and gosh, such a great episode. That beginning with Bullseye, just incredible, that whole scene. And Mark had to clarify for me, and as you guys talked about in the podcast, that diners in New York do have lobster in live lobsters in there. It just blew my mind. I didn't think that was a thing, in like just, hole in the wall kind of diner kind of place. But I guess in New York, that's where it is. But anyway, total surprise with what happened, at the end with Vanessa. Don't know what the result of that is going to be. We'll see. It looked pretty bad to me, but anything can happen in the Marvel universe. So we'll see next week, or this week, I guess, now that I'm recording this, what her fate is going to be and how we move forward in this back half of this season. I'm excited. I hope we get Jessica Jones soon. I'm a little disappointed that we haven't seen her yet. They've just barely mentioned her. But can't wait to hear you guys talk about the next episode, and just continue watching with y'all. All right, talk to you later.
Thanks so much, Steve. Really want to see Jessica pop on up as well. That great little bit of sort of the theme tune for her would be awesome. Equally, totally with you. Yes, lobsters. In a diner. I think that's why I was kind of like, was it a diner or a high-end restaurant? But at the end of the day, the deadliest catch has to go somewhere.
Absolutely. I'll give a shout out to another podcast, Fantastic Geek, who cover the show, who are based in New York. They're actually based quite close to where some of the show was filmed, and they actually searched up the restaurant here, the Bel Air diner that's used in this scene. It is an actual diner that exists in New York. Now, it's not exactly the same. They obviously did some set dressing on it as well, of course, as well as covering the place in blood. They don't serve lobster. That is a fiction. But they have got on their menu, they are world famous for their milkshakes. So they incorporated that into the show, which I think is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
So well done for Fantastic Geek for doing the search that I wasn't
the
willing
hard
to Google.
yards on that one.
Exactly. Great stuff. Thanks so much, Steve, for your thoughts.
Steve.
I have been listening to your podcast, Panels to Pixels, as well about Daredevil. I know you guys are enjoying it as much as we are as well. So thanks so much for taking the time, Ace, to email us.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
We also got some feedback in on Discord from Dr. Bob Phillips, who had some thoughts on episode 4. He says, full of twists I did not expect. Book the Destroyer. Dare, you're welcome. Devil. BB agreeing to be at the boxing. The exit of Swordsman without a small tiger or a bounding bourbon hero to replace him. What looks like an intercranial foreign object at Mrs. Fisk's temple. And the persistence of ketchup art. Wouldn't you have expected more drip when Matt went to investigate the scene? Great stuff, Dr. Bob. The bullseye that he drew in ketchup. I guess he probably used some Heinz ketchup then, because that's the one that's known for not dripping, isn't it? That's difficult to get out of the bottle.
Yeah.
So difficult that they moved it from glass to a plastic bottle to allow you to squeeze it out.
Yeah. And even then, you can't get the end stuff out.
Exactly. So that's good ketchup he's using, not just diner ketchup.
But still, you would expect it to drip. Indeed.
Drip. Okay, yeah.
A saggy bullseye should be the end of that, I think.
It should be. I don't know whether that would have looked as good on screen, though.
No.
Great stuff, though. Thanks so much, Dr. Bob. Lots happened in this episode, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Bob. Also over on Discord, Kenlog says, Fisk is surely going to be completely unhinged now. No one is holding him back. I think this season is going to get proper dark before the finale. Also over on Discord, Joe Herbs has a question. Why did Bullseye put on a mask when the fight in the diner starts and then take it off? What was the point of the mask when everyone saw him before and after? Bullseye killing the task force stealthily like he did in the hospital last episode makes sense. Why would he summon a bunch with their guns drawn amid lots of civilians? And how do random objects penetrate their body armor? He seemed to be living a double life. Nice, quiet, clean-cut guy, good with the neighbors while stealthily taking out the task force. So why would he reveal who he really is in front of a bunch of witnesses? Thanks so much, Kenlog and Joe. Firstly, Kenlog, I think you're right. I think it will get proper dark. It feels like that, to be honest. And certainly with this upcoming episode 5, I think we can see even more. I felt sort of afraid of what's to come ultimately.
Absolutely.
And I think you get the impending of that even in episode 4. So yeah, totally agree there. And yeah, I guess, Joe, with the different mask and all that, I guess he just comes in as a random punter. because I think if he comes in with a mask, he's in that diner, he's just going to do it there and then. But I guess it's just a scene.
I had a bit of a chat with Joe about this on Discord as well, because it's an interesting point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think you see enough in the episode to understand exactly where Bullseye's head's at. Now that we've seen episode 5, there's a bit more of understanding about what Bullseye's doing here. I don't think he really cares at all whether people identify him or not. He's wearing the outfit when he's taking out the task force. He called in that it was Punisher there, so they were expecting to have a guns-on fight with the Punisher when they arrived. He was there to get the idea out there that there is another masked vigilante in the city protecting the people from the AVTF. Whether they know who he is or not, they probably all know pretty well, because he's the most experienced targeted person in the entire city of New York. So Wilson Fisk knows exactly who this guy is, even whether he wears a mask or not. So I don't think that was the point. And I did mention to him about the double life. As soon as Daredevil arrives in his apartment, like, he takes his landlady or his neighbor hostage. So
Mrs.
he doesn't
Smithers.
care about it all. Mrs. Smithers, he takes her hostage. He doesn't really care about that double life. It's good for him as cover while he plans his move. But his move was the diner, right?
Yeah.
That was what he was trying to do. So he's done everything he wanted to accomplish. He wasn't trying to live out this perfect life for the rest of his time. He was using that as a cover to make his plan, I think, and then, now that it's all shut up, he doesn't really care who knows, basically. But yes, he made that decision to put on his mask before he fought the AVTF, and then take it off to witnesses so they know that he's there, you know? So yeah, it's an interesting one. I do think there's more in episode 5 though that we'll discuss.
Definitely.
Thanks so much for that feedback over on Discord.
Absolutely.
Over on Facebook, our final pieces of feedback. First one comes in from Daphne Bachman, who says, I am absolutely loving this season so far. The action and tension have been fantastic. I also appreciate moments of hope with those fighting back against the Fisk regime. Also, when Vanessa came in the white dress, I had a feeling it was going to turn red. Viva la revolution.
Excellent stuff, Daphne.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you could see the actual despair on Fisk, realizing that Vanessa had walked into, in a sense, this killing field, that had been, devised, in fact, by Fisk in order to trap both Daredevil and Bullseye.
Absolutely.
And his wife effectively gets caught in the crossfire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great stuff. Great to hear from you as well, Daphne. Thanks so much for your thoughts. Mathematician sent in his thoughts on the episode. He says, who doesn't love a bit of Billy Joel? You've got to respect the confidence of Bullseye, knowing he can take out a number of armed task force guys with some cutlery. Great opening. Unfortunately, Jack channeling his inner Roger Murtaugh by claiming he's getting too old for this stuff was a blow to the vigilantes as he showed his value in episode 3. His fighting style is a joy to behold, full of flamboyance. Matthew Lillard is back. Woohoo! Charles appears to be one of the few people who can talk to Fisk how he pleases, knowing he isn't a subordinate. Buck, is he Bullet in the comics, makes him think again by taking out his muscle in the blink of an eye. Is he afraid of Fisk, or is he worried about failing Val? Maybe you boys can help me out here. How did Matt figure out where Bullseye would be hiding out based on the descriptions of the priest? I get it was near the church, but no idea how he nailed it to be the exact flat Poindexter was hiding out in. Thrilling action in the following fight, though. Did Blake spot Angela's friend slipping the SD card into BB's pocket, and does he now suspect her as the leak, using him as her source? I love how he paid full price for the souvenir and then got annoyed with himself when he found out he could have saved some money. That kid defo has his dad's acting chops. It takes around 2 seconds for Fisk's opponent to find out how brutal he is, and then, wow, what an ending. Did Fisk kill Vanessa trying to save himself from Blake's souvenir that Bullseye aimed at him? This scene is exactly what gives me the only issue with Matt. He is always trying to save Fisk's life from Bullseye, or vice versa, and other people keep dying because of it. How does he square doing what he feels is morally correct when it is costing multiple people their lives? Does Matt not realise that numerous lives will be saved overall if the Kingpin is dead? Vanessa dressed in white with blood dripping on it. Oh, anybody remember A Rabbit in a Snowstorm? Fisk's favourite piece of art? Great episode. 4.5 out of 5 is my score for the New York banana milkshake with whipped cream. Who doesn't? But 5 out of 5 for this. The best episode of the season so far. Thrilling. Mathematician.
Great stuff, Mathematician. I do like your reference to Murtaugh. I always loved him Sort of channeling his "I'm about to retire, stop doing crazy stuff" with Martin Riggs, because he's about to retire. So yeah, I like the reference there.
Absolutely, and do you know he's also one of those poster boys from the 80s of people looking way older than they actually are. So he was supposed to be in retirement mode there, and I think he was 48 when he played that role. Younger than me, John. Younger than me.
Younger than me?
Just. Yes, so there's a couple of things from the episode. How did Matt figure out where Bullseye would be hiding based on the description of the priest? Well, we do see him cock his ears to the surroundings. We know Matt has a super ability, and in the Marvel show, he does have a bigger superpower than we've seen before. We were commenting on the podcast last time that he basically hears from across the road some indications that Poindexter's apartment is across the way. He hears some noises and is able to identify it from that. I think we just have to go with it. It's
playing darts,
superpower.
wasn't he?
Yeah, but he's like, oh, that's 5 bullseyes in a row, so therefore that must be Poindexter's apartment. No, it is one of those ones that we just have to accept that Daredevil used his superpowers to find him. At least he was able to focus on the building from what the priest was saying. Did Blake spot Angela's friends slipping in the SD card? We think he might have.
We feel he did, but we're not entirely sure. And it's not entirely clear.
Mm-hmm. But with Daniel, it's basically he's kind of willing to let BB away with a couple of things. He doesn't want to throw suspicion on her if she gets caught releasing information in the future. He'll have to turn her in. He really doesn't want to do that. He's kind of fighting against himself, I think.
Yes, definitely torn loyalties here, at least for the time being.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And you asked the clear question of the whole season: did Fisk kill Vanessa trying to save himself from Blake's souvenir? I would say there's an argument for that. If he hadn't blocked the glass from coming towards him with the belt, it wouldn't have broken. I wouldn't have gone to Vanessa's neck. Will we ever hear Wilson Fisk say it was my fault that she died or that she was injured in this attack? Absolutely not. He's going to blame Bullseye. He's going to blame Daredevil for being in the building. He's going to blame whoever he needs to around himself. The doctors involved. He's going to blame everybody, but he absolutely will never blame himself for what happened there. Even though, as John said earlier on, this was his whole setup to draw Bullseye and Daredevil out. If he hadn't set it up himself, that in itself would have caused her death.
Absolutely. But I mean, look, if you go further back, he told Vanessa not to come. He told Vanessa, go to Albany. She decided to turn up. So
no, she went to Albany and did the job really quickly and came back.
No, exactly. But she still went to go knowing that was the reason why she was being sent to Albany. So she made the choice, ultimately.
She did.
But again, that's not the point at all.
Mm-hmm.
It is that Bullseye and Daredevil were there, and it's a result of that.
Yeah.
So he's going to blame Bullseye and Daredevil for sure.
Absolutely. And the last question that Mathematician had on how does Daredevil square doing what he's doing and still feel morally correct? I think this episode 5, which we'll be talking about, is probably the answer to that. That this is what Daredevil will always do. He will always choose to try and save people's lives. While you can't save everybody is also something that he has to deal with. He will try, even if it is Wilson Fisk, even if it is Poindexter, he will try to save lives.
But he does, I totally with Mathematician, he does consistently save Kingpin and Wilson, aka Wilson Fisk, all the time. And sometimes it's like, well, you run with the crime lords, you die by the crime lords.
That would be some people's attitude, absolutely, but it's not Matt Murdock's attitude. And
it's interesting because and we'll get into it, I guess, in episode 5, because yes, Matt is a little banjaxed with his viewpoint and his morality on the basis of being, I guess, one, brought up in the Catholic Church, but two, you see the opposite side of this argument that you're saying now, Mathematician, which, to be honest, it's just that he's had a really sort of complicated genesis as to why now he will save everyone.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, he will try to do that. We'll talk about that much more in episode 5. I suppose the big difference is someone like Buck is out there to save Kingpin's life and make sure Kingpin doesn't die. Matt Murdock, when he's in a situation where the Kingpin could die because there's a bullet coming towards him, his moral code says I should jump in the way of that bullet from killing anybody. It happens to be Fisk. And for the drama of the TV show, the writers put it in that it's Fisk more often than it probably should be.
Yeah, agreed.
I would say. In real life, Matt just will never allow someone to die in front of him if he can save them, and it happens to be Fisk quite a lot because that's the story of the show, right?
Yeah.
There you go. That's my real explanation for it. But again, lots more of that moral code in this episode, in episode 5. Thanks so much for your feedback, Mathematician.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mathematician.
That's it for our feedback on episode 4. We'll have some more feedback on episode 5 later on in the podcast.
Yes.
But I think it's time to get into our episode 5 discussion, John.
Indeed it is. Derek, who gave us what, where, when, and how?
Well, the episode was directed by Angela Barnes. She directed this week's episode and next week's episode of Daredevil Born Again, and also directed the final half of Ironheart last year, interestingly. So that was a 6-episode series, and she directed the final 3 episodes, which is kind of cool.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, great season as well.
I think we had a dinner lady called Mrs. Barnes.
Really?
Yes. Anyway, and I think her first name was Angela. So there we go. She made it all the way to the directorship.
That's fantastic, going from being a dinner lady to a writer on Marvel, though.
No, it's just name association.
Okay.
It's not the same Angela Barnes.
Probably not. She'd probably be in her 80s at this stage if she was serving
that is true.
Food to you back when you were in school. The episode was written by Jessie Wigutow. She wrote 2 episodes of season 1 of Daredevil Born Again, and this is her first of 3 episodes this season. She has 2 more episodes to go this season as well, so...
Excellent stuff.
Yeah, so a good voice in the writer's room in Daredevil Born Again.
Yes.
So, John, do you want to give us your synopsis for Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 5, The Grand Design?
Sure. And I do quite like Grand Designs on Channel 4 as well. But it's not the same. Again, it's not the same word association.
Yes.
Years prior, while working as interns at Landman and Zack, Murdock and Foggy Nelson are assigned a criminal case involving one of Nelson's childhood neighbours, Lionel Ray McCoy. The pair get McCoy released, and Foggy the Fembot gives him their future fund savings so he can make a fresh start. However, McCoy narrowly avoids a young Buck Cashman, who has been hired to kill him by Fisk's fixer at the time, James Wesley. Wesley also arranges for an art gallery to serve as one of Fisk's fronts, leading him to meet Vanessa. In the present, Daredevil helps the wounded Dex escape from the AVTF. Despite the latter's pleas to let him die, Daredevil is inspired by the memory of Foggy's selflessness and takes Bullseye to recover at the Punisher's hideout, where Karen Page is less than impressed. After Daniel Blake leaks Vanessa's status to BB Ulrich, Cashman tests his loyalty by forcing him to drive them to Albany to bury Sava's body. Meanwhile, Vanessa wakes up after successful surgery, but seems to have suffered some kind of brain damage. Shortly after, her vitals fade, and she flatlines as doctors attempt to revive her while a devastated Fisk watches on. Eek!
I know. 2 episodes in a row. I have to think Vanessa is dead at the end of this episode, but it's not confirmed for definite.
No, because you've still got all the medics and so on and nurses sort of trying to resuscitate her effectively.
Yeah.
But it's very poignant.
It certainly is.
And I would say, if I was a betting man, that yes.
They won't do it another time. Next episode.
She is dead.
Yes, I think she is.
But you are right. It's not as such confirmed. I guess it's like, wait until episode 6, pan to graveyard and funeral, you know? So, but it certainly seems like that.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, let's get into all of our case notes for this episode. We're going to kick off where we always do with case note number 1. Order! Time for the defense to present their evidence. I wonder, do people like those intros, John? I'm not sure whether I did the best I possibly could with this.
Oh, you could. The evidence is irrefutable.
Very good. Our first point, let's go back to Vanessa really quickly for this opening point. Vanessa under the knife. It's just because this episode kicks off so quickly after what we saw happened last week. We have Vanessa being brought into the Mercy Hospital, which is the one that we know from Daredevil before, where Night Nurse worked, Rosario Dawson's character worked.
Yes,
back in the original Netflix series. Should be an indication we're going to be flashing back to the Netflix series, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And interestingly as well, I think it was a no cold open, as they call it.
Yes.
So it was just straight into the credits first. I guess like in the good old days, in that sense, rather than having a part of the show up front and then the credits.
Exactly.
So this was, that in itself kind of brought an urgency into coming then into this, whole set of images of Vanessa in a critical condition, Fisk freaking out, making life actually very hard for the medics trying to deal with a critical Vanessa. But it is for sure one of those things where it was just really nicely done with that no cold open, to be honest.
Just where you see this massively strong and very influential person in the room, still covered in the blood from Vanessa and from the fight he just got out of, telling everybody to fix his wife. Basically, you're going, what can I possibly do in this situation? I can't have him in the room with us while we're trying to stabilize her, and I can't push him out of here in case he gets angry and kills me. Basically, I'm sure everybody has seen how violent he is from the fight that was just on. But then it kind of pans around the hospital and we see what everybody else is doing. Sheila's able to finally get Fisk out of the way, and tell him, you have to let them do their work. We have Daniel fielding calls from all of the press outside, and he's freaking out. You can tell he's absolutely freaked out about what's happening and doesn't want to leak any information himself that could get him implicated because of what previously happened with Wilson, and the threat that he saw. So he doesn't even want to tell people that she's in hospital, or what hospital she's in, or what condition she's in. And then he gets a text from Bibi, who is in the hospital with him, looking for information.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a couple of things here in this moment, as you say. One is you have Daniel on media duties and then having to deal with Bibi. And it's kind of, in a sense, in the end, I don't think he appreciates Bibi's arrival. I mean, there is a hug at the end because she's kind of saying, well, I want to get the story straight. But where he's kind of like, oh, are we doing this? Now, it's interesting, the kind of dynamic here, and part of it is suggestive to me that he does know that she's leaking stuff because she's the official, reporter. She was brought in on the payroll to do the Bibi report.
Exactly.
She's saying, she says, I want to get the story straight. I mean, to be honest as well, in the modern era, at least everyone knows she's in hospital. It's about whether is she alive or is she dead. And at the moment, you'll say she's alive. I felt the overreaction from Daniel is a result of his suspicion of her, rather
100%.
than what she was asking was anything that wouldn't be being asked by every reporter. And in particular, she has the right to be there because she's on the media team, effectively, of Fisk's office.
Yeah, I think part of it is just, why is she even asking the questions to Daniel? Because she knows the answers to all of them. He can't give it, they can't confirm it. And I think Daniel, again, overreacts even further when he sees the TV and reporters are starting to turn up to that hospital. Bibi told him there's only a couple of hospitals in New York. This is the closest. It's very likely she was going to be here anyway, so everybody would turn up. But Daniel is blaming her, and I think even a question that we had in the feedback is, does Daniel suspect Bibi? It's not that he suspects her. He knows. The warning that he had was a pointed warning, just so the words came out from saying, if you're leaking anything, stop leaking stuff because we both could be killed.
Yeah.
But he knows because what was shown, the footage that was shown, was only on his laptop, and the only person that could have had access to that was Bibi. So he absolutely does know. He wants to avoid a horrible life by turning in his friend that he brought into the situation over to Fisk, her potentially being killed and him being responsible for it. He's trying to have an easy life by kind of ignoring that and putting his fingers in his ears. And the more she confronts him and the more that she gives him reason to believe that he is the leak within the mayor's office, the worse it's getting for him, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so that's an interesting kind of dynamic, especially given what happens later in this episode. I think the other side of it for me as well is here, a bit like to Ken Logg's feedback there around episode 4, it's going to get dark. This is where, Vanessa is in critical. She's gone off to have her surgery. And you have Officer Powell coming in to see Wilson Fisk about, the manhunt for Daredevil and Bullseye. And he's like, if you have them, keep them alive. And, Powell says, no one wants to get them more than me. And he says, you can't want them more than me because of what's happened to Vanessa. Yeah. And as Powell heads off, he says, Officer Powell, alive. Like, he wants them alive because he is going to be the one that makes them very, very dead when he gets his hands on them. So, this is the ominous nature of Wilson Fisk. In his mind, it is pure black and white. They are to blame, not him, not even his wife Vanessa. It is Bullseye and Daredevil by association being there. This is very ominous for both Matt Murdock and old Poindexter.
Absolutely. And I do wonder if something that will happen in the future is Powell doesn't go by what Fisk wishes for and he ends off dead at Fisk's hands. It feels like of all of the people that we've seen working for Fisk in the past, Powell seems to be the one that will overstep the boundaries that are being set for him and laid out very clearly by Fisk. It feels like he's going to pull the trigger on someone that Fisk doesn't want dead, and he will be dead for it. So I just wonder if that's going to happen, because Fisk having to stress twice, I want them alive, to Powell feels like a foreshadowing that Powell will do something that Fisk doesn't like in the future. I don't know. It's something about Powell that I want somebody to kill him, and I would be really intrigued to see if it was Fisk that takes him out for doing something wrong.
Yeah, it'll be interesting now for sure.
That is our first case note. Let's move on to our second case note. Guess who's back? The avocados at law.
They certainly are. Our creamy guacamole style avocados at law. Yes.
At least one half of them. Yeah.
Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock. I really enjoyed these flashbacks, and I liked
fabulous.
Not only just the one with Foggy and Matt, but equally the one that has Vanessa in here as well. It really took me back to the Marvel Netflix shows, and it really did marry these two shows together. It was really good to see the two of them sort of doing the hard graft here. It was, the first case that we see them do, which is one set up for them by Wilson Fisk's absolutely fantastic doer in terms of Wesley. Yay! I was so happy to see Wesley. I can't believe it when Karen killed him. I was devastated.
I remember.
Really, really enjoyed James Wesley, and I was so pleased to see Wesley back here advising Fisk. So it was really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, he was just such a favourite character. I know he was a weasel as well, and I know what he did to Karen, but and I think actually Harrison Fox, I know you've been re-listening to some of our podcasts. You can correct me if I'm wrong. There is a point that we got to on Defenders TV podcast that Chris and John specifically were not liking Karen Page anymore as a character, and I think that stems from her being the one that killed Wesley. I think from then on it was like, I'm not really too sure whether Karen should really be in the episodes anymore. And I think it was because they killed Wesley. But the minute I heard his voice specifically, I remember he was part of our opening intro, so I used to hear it every single week when I was editing the podcast and putting in our intro. His line about Captain America, the guy with the shield, and the guy with green skin, his line from that original trailer for Daredevil would played for me for about a year in our podcast. So great to hear his voice.
It was so good. Like, he has that one line that he says to Fisk, "We have a problem with the lion. I'll get someone who will deal with it." That lion being Lionel Ray McCoy,
exactly,
who is the client of Matt and Foggy. I just like that kind of code. And you see, he's ex-army, he's ex-military, has all that lingo around, saying what he needs to say, but it not being obvious in case they're being listened to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very cool to have Wesley back.
Absolutely. And I know we'll talk more about him.
I did squeal with joy.
Absolutely. I'm going to say it here. I was talking to our other co-host, Chris, who's been watching more of the trailers than of the episodes, and the marketing team for Daredevil Born Again, I think, just need to be replaced. They have spoiled so many of the reveals that were coming up this season. I heard Dario Scardapane being interviewed saying that he couldn't stop them from releasing the diner fight scene from Bullseye. They were trying to release that back in October last year when they went to New York Comic Con. He was saying, can you just save something for the show when we release it? And I think when that episode aired, they put that out about 20 minutes after the episode aired on YouTube, so everybody could watch that fight scene. It's a fantastic scene, but give people time to watch it in context of the episodes. That's the excitement of someone that watches the show every week, right? But we were watching these episodes as screeners when we got them, so we were completely blown away by how much was in this episode of Foggy Nelson, how much was in the episode of bringing back Wesley side by side with Kingpin, how much it was tying into the original Netflix series. And a lot of this stuff was in trailers for the episode just during the week before the episode was released. Like, these are things you hide and hold for the fans to see when you release the episodes on screen. So, not happy with the way that the show has been marketed. People could see what was happening. There's another big reveal that happens in this episode that was also spoiled in the trailer as well, which I thought was a bit sad.
There's been a few reveals, I think, going forward. So yeah, it's not been the most tight-lipped of sets or of marketing companies.
Yes, but it just feels like the marketing company are saying, well, people won't watch it unless they know exactly what's going to happen in the episodes. And actually what's happening is people are watching those clips on YouTube and forming a cottage industry on watching the clips on YouTube rather than actually watching the show. Dario Scardapane, the showrunner for the show, has been really clear. The reason why there isn't a season 4 of Daredevil Born Again right now is because people need to watch season 2 and season 3. And if they don't watch them, Disney won't greenlight a season 4 of the show, regardless of how much people like it and talk about it. If they don't watch it on Disney Plus, we won't get a season 4. So watch the episodes. So whenever you need. I know you are all watching the episodes, fellow defenders. You wouldn't be listening to our podcast if you weren't. But yeah, that's the big one. These scenes, though, with the avocados at law, the really young Matt Murdock, the really young Foggy Nelson in their first big role together at the law firm that we saw them at for, I think, in a flashback in season 1 of Daredevil before they had their own firm. I love this. There's a different dynamic between the two characters. You can tell why they're close friends. They already have a great friendship being built up. They're already working really hard together. They have that from college. But them learning a bit more about each other, and that storyline that we have here, as you mentioned, that the person they're going in to meet, Lionel McCoy, was someone that Foggy knew from before he met Matt, but from before he went to college, from his hometown. Guy didn't like, but it doesn't mean he doesn't deserve the justice that they can help bring for him.
Well, that's it. And I mean, it comes across as being quite simple, a plea deal. And it actually, it's McCoy to give them a teaching here. It says, yeah, that's what they want you to do. That's what they want me to do. Because as soon as I do it, it's not about 10 years or 3 years or, a reduced sentence to 3 years. It's, I have 24 hours because they have 10 guys on the inside who are going to kill me.
Yeah.
So they're going to kill me as soon as I go in. And, it's all that element to it that kind of kicks off, the fact that I guess this discussion between Foggy and Matt, and it's to Mathematician's point here from his episode 4 feedback, where you have Foggy wanting to do right by his client, in a sense, and partly as well because he grew up in the same neighborhood, but it's not someone who he was friends with. I mean, he calls him Foggy the Fembot. So, he's defending a guy who's never really been particularly nice to him, but he sees that his brother's had a second chance. Maybe it's time for Ray McCoy to have this second chance. Whereas Matt is very much, who cares? He should rot. He should get what's coming to him effectively, in the same way as we're saying that's what should happen to Fisk. And in the end, he is sort of won around over time to Foggy's view on this.
Yeah. Foggy totally in the right here. They have an opportunity to stop this guy from going to prison. And he's showing Matt that mercy is a choice. And he deserves mercy, and maybe them being merciful will allow Lionel to live. It's a really important conversation that they're having. It's interesting to see Matt being on a different side of that argument, because we've spent so much time with moral Matt making the decision to save lives at all costs. And that's something that we're showing here in these scenes that he's learned from Foggy, which I love. I absolutely love that idea, that Foggy's being, really clear with Matt. We have an opportunity here. There's a get out of jail free card. You would use that on somebody that you felt you wanted to save, but we should also use that on someone that has been put into our care as lawyers. This is why the avocados at law, the firm of Foggy Nelson and Matt Murdock, don't go into cases for money. They go into cases to help people that need to be helped. That's why they set up the firm the way they set it up as well. So, a great way of telling a story of these two characters together. Really loved it.
And we do see, sort of the fine margins of timing and so on later on in the episode, with Ray narrowly missing a run-in with a young and slightly more flowy of her Buck Cashman, who I keep calling Bush Cashman.
I know.
I think he's some kind of outback sort of adventurer in Australia.
Cashman? But weirdly, he's an upper class British guy with the name Buck Cashman. There's a constant running joke on the Empire podcast that Buck Cashman should be called something like Pound Money Man because he's British. So, actually, and I didn't answer mathematician's question earlier on, this is a comic book character. This is a character from the Daredevil comic books. He appeared in issue 250 of Daredevil originally back in 1987. The character is a gun for hire, and he is known as Bullet. He is a person that is used to kill people that are deemed required to be killed by the American government in this case. So interesting to have him aligned with the mayor of New York as his gunman. And here we find actually he's going back a lot farther than that, but we'll talk much more about Buck Cashman, I'm sure, as we get through the rest of the episode. Anything else on the appearance of Foggy here, John? Specifically? No,
I was really pleased to see Foggy here.
Yeah.
In the same way I was really pleased to see James Wesley.
Yeah.
It was great to see a young Buck Cashman. So I really liked the context that these flashbacks brought to this story, actually. And I like how it interwove with Fisk and Vanessa's flashbacks and moments as well.
Yeah.
So, this was really good. And actually how it all played into the present day.
Absolutely.
with Matt in particular.
Yeah.
For sure.
And one of the things you may know now, but if you don't, the reason why the flashbacks look so different from the current footage, the scenes that we have in present day, is because they actually match the film stock. They match the filming style of the Netflix show to give the flashbacks that real feel that you were back in the Netflix era. I went back and watched the Rabbit in Your Headlights episode 4 of season 1, and you can really feel it, that those scenes that we have Matt and Foggy together, and the scenes with Wesley and Fisk together, they all feel a part of the Netflix show as opposed to the Disney Plus show, which is gritty as it is, but it is beautifully filmed on very high quality digital film, whereas the Netflix footage is slightly different, but they went back and matched that to make sure it could sit alongside it. I think you were thinking some of them were actual cut scenes from back in the
I
Netflix
did.
days,
Certainly the stuff with Wesley. Just because I think I saw him and Fisk in the back of a black sedan so many times in season 1. I just thought, I guess they just used
other footage.
The footage. Exactly. But I guess they would have to pay Netflix quite a lot of money for that. So yes, it's cheaper.
Although, no, they have used some footage. Haven't they?
But I mean, there was so much here in the flashback.
Exactly.
Like it really was. I mean, to the point that the case person is someone different.
Yes.
But I think it's a really good way of using flashbacks here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get on to our case note number 3. Order in the court. And tying in with those flashbacks, our case note number 3 is Dee Dee exercises mercy. I love how the episode opens with Daredevil taking Dex through the underbelly of the area in Hell's Kitchen around Fogwell's gym, being tracked down by the AVTF, and Daredevil, all he wants to do is get Dex out of the area, get the two of them off to safety, but everything bearing down around them it's just a really cool scene, and it feels like
there's proper fugitive kind of feel. It really feels like they're getting penned in. These two.
I really did feel like Matt was back on home turf, going down in the sewers. I think he spent some time down there with the Russians back in season 1 and season 2 of Daredevil. So it was kind of cool having him get away from Fogwell's gym, a place he would have gone to almost every day when he was a kid, and taking Dex with him through restaurants and back alleys and everywhere to get them to safety. And I love even just going into the restaurant, looking for some towels to dry up the blood, and the guys in the restaurant are going, "We're with you, Daredevil,
absolutely, really,
we're on
really
your side." I just
interesting.
love that. Yeah,
really interesting moment. I do like how this plays out though, where with Dexter is. Poindexter here is really, don't help me. Why are you helping me? I need the balance. The scales need to be settled. I've earned this pain and misery many times over, and Daredevil is trying to help him. But having said that, he keeps pushing him, saying, well, I killed Foggy. And he's like, don't, you can't say Foggy's name. Don't say that name. That night, I was thrown off the roof by you. I was supposed to die. He says, maybe, and this is the other nice little bit of linking in as Matt says, maybe it's not part of the grand design, to Bullseye. And I mean, this is just like, he wants to die. So it's to your point around the diner. He wants that redemption. He wants that, in a sense, physical sacrifice for what he's done previously. The sins he has to sort of wash away are ones that can only be done with the equivalent pain, misery, and ultimately his death. And that's why he's pushing back against Matt and Daredevil here all the time.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, this would have been used as an argument on the side of why isn't Matt Murdock killing his enemies, because he threw Dex off a roof when he killed his best friend, right? And here in this episode, we have Matt specifically saying to Dex, the reason I have to save you is because I absolutely shouldn't have thrown you off the roof. The reason I'm trying to save you is because I tried to kill you and I shouldn't have done that.
Well, he says
which
maybe,
is so interesting.
Yeah, well, that's it. He says maybe tonight's penance is mutual.
Yes. Love it. Love that. Yeah. That is
great.
So much part of his character. He takes him back to the church to hide out in there. They eventually get back there with the priest inside trying to help them out.
I like it when priests lie.
Yes, absolutely. Or omit the truth.
Yes.
No,
I didn't see anyone go.
I was doing my praying. But I do
cleaning the font.
Yeah, but I do think there's something sinister in that scene as well that, some people might miss. Powell and his gunmen are standing at the door of a church and pushing their way in when the priest has said to them, nothing to see here. They're pushing their way in like the Gestapo. They do feel very like a Hitler army when they're completely ignoring the normal rules of engagement in the city here. They've been told by Fisk, do everything, you can do anything, I'll square it away later on, find these two. And they're pushing their way in, carrying guns into a church. That would be way overstepping the mark in normal circumstances, in normal day-to-day life. Walking into any religious house carrying weapons, but not when there's a priest standing at the door telling you there's nobody inside here. It just feels like a really sinister part of this episode that just might be missed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very kind of, they're kind of like going, well, things have changed now, and they just walk in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when they find the blood of Dex on the floor after Matt has taken him out of there, again, I was feeling, will this priest survive the night?
Absolutely.
Will they take out their frustration that they couldn't find the two of them on the priest saying he is lying to them when he doesn't actually know where they've gone?
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, I don't think they would would do that, but you kind of feel they would arrest him.
I think Powell would do that,
Yeah.
though. That's the thing. Like, I don't think the ABTF as a whole. Remember, Powell's the guy that stuck someone's hand in a fryer of hot oil last season when he just started out setting up the ABTF. What's he doing now with all the power he's been given? I'm not sure if someone being a priest is going to deter him from doing something to them, especially the way he is in this episode.
No, but I exactly. Although I do like then that and how it interplays with the flashback of the avocados, that, you know, in a sense, Daredevil is leaves Bullseye, but he ultimately comes back to give him mercy.
Yeah.
And before the hiding spot is blown by the arrival of the AVTF. So, you know, Foggy's initial lesson that we've been getting is learnt and applied by Matt Murdock here.
Absolutely.
And it's really, I think that's really good.
Really strong.
I like how it just reinforces their relationship and the strength of it from even beyond the grave.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly. And you know what I really like about it as well is that Matt says when he's leaving Bullseye behind, Matt goes, well, I can't save both of us, and then goes back and saves him. So he was just trying to justify it to himself. Yeah. So it was him kind of going, well, I can't save both of us, so I might as well at least save my own life, and then comes back and saves Bullseye. So he could have absolutely done it, but he had to make the decision to show mercy on Dex. So a great connection.
Because he's shown it to Fisk, I think.
Yeah, I think just overall, Foggy would ask he show mercy on everybody around him, even the person that killed Foggy. That's his realization.
But we have Karen as the counterpoint to this. The side eye,
when he walks into the Punisher's old hideout and goes, a little help, carrying Bullseye in his arms, like, you know, I wouldn't be going to sleep with Karen in the room if I was Bullseye.
No.
And I wouldn't be leaving Karen alone with Bullseye in that place. No. But I know Karen's pretty moral as well, so she'll probably keep him alive, but just be very angry and throw lots of side eye at Matt, I think, from now on.
Lots of side eye.
Here, what are you doing bringing Foggy's killer back to our hideout? Yeah, not great. Anything else about that scene and those moments, John?
No, nothing from me.
Okay,
just really good how that lesson and the friendship all kind of comes together here with that moment.
Absolutely. Let's get on to our next case note. Ooh, shovel or saw, John. Oh, you know, I'm telling you, this was my favourite scene to watch blind. A couple of weeks ago when we were able to watch the screeners. This is as far as we got when we were watching the screeners up to episode 5. And these scenes between Daniel and Buck Cashman throughout the episode were so tense, especially as we started to see flashbacks of how long Buck Cashman has been involved in the business of Wilson Fisk, going all the way back to the time when he was brought on board around these original flashbacks by James Wesley. It means you know how much Buck Cashman is willing to do for Kingpin. You know, It starts out as, let's go out and get a hot dog. And then suddenly they're driving to Albany and Daniel has no idea why they're driving out so far. And it's so interesting, you know, given that the character is played by James Gandolfini's son, who was central to The Sopranos. This would be something that would happen every 4 or 5 episodes of The Sopranos. They would leave New York City, go out to the burbs or go out to a forested area, and then one of them wouldn't be coming back, you know. So to have Daniel Blake being played by James Gandolfini's son being brought out to a forested area by the hitman of the Kingpin, there were 2 things that were playing in my mind. Number 1 was Daniel Blake wasn't coming back, and the other option was when they opened up that boot. This is dark, but I thought it was going to be BB in the boot, that Buck had identified that BB was the leak and he had killed her and was going to make Daniel bury her. Now, that is something that you would see in Sopranos, and then I realized, let's hang on a second, pull it back. This is still Daredevil.
Yeah, no,
it's still a comic show. They wouldn't go that far with a major character on the show, but it did feel like that's something that they could have done.
I had the same feeling, but only up to the point where the boot opened. Up till that, I really felt as though Buck Cashman was going to kill Daniel. So I was in I was absolutely totally drawn in by that ride up to the field. The fact that you have, in parallel, you see a young Buck Cashman trying to kill Ray, and ultimately, the shovel and the saw, possibly a little on the nose, but that was also a real dark comedy moment for me. I did kind of laugh, and I liked the way that Daniel played that around thinking, right, I'm going to start the engine here, I'm going to drive off. He does that really, really well. He thinks better of it, but ultimately when he's driving into the field and he's being told to get out, he's like, you don't have to do this, man, because the whole conversation up here has been, the leak from the mayor's office, the sinking of the Northern Star, all these things that have happened that are bad. Almost like he's trying to pin them on him. Yeah. So that's why I did think, BB Ulrich is going to be in the back as well. And it's both of them that are going to get sort of taken out maybe. But, he then tells Daniel that a man who's given you everything demands loyalty. Yeah. And here, in the first instance, you think, and the chips are being banked here and you've not won enough. Yeah. But instead it is, the choice of saw or shovel. So that he shows his loyalty by burying the dead second in command, of the Northern Star, Christophe Sava. Yeah. So yeah, this, I thought it was great tension here.
Oh, so good.
Really good. And that's the thing, when it's drawn out that long and you have that level of tension, I guess your mind starts to wander, like, as you say, is it the second in command of the Northern Star? Is it BB Ulrich? Is it going to be Daniel? What is happening here? Yeah. And it was just really nicely done because it just lets your imagination run away with itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think just how tight-lipped Buck Cashman is on any question that Daniel has, when Daniel starts to get really stressed out thinking it's going to be him that's murdered, he thinks it as well, that Buck Cashman just gets even more silent, he doesn't answer any questions at all of him. When he's pushed, he kind of goes, pull in here, and then goes in and gets the tools of the trade to kill and bury someone, so of course Daniel's going to be thinking that he's going to die. And it seems like Buck Cashman was messing with him. And I wonder if it was partly because we hear a reference again to the fact that Daniel had been investigating who Buck Cashman was. He'd found out that he was in Regiment 22, that he was part of the Secret Service in the UK, that he made him eat the East Street meat, the hot dog last time.
That's what I was thinking.
So is Buck Cashman messing with Daniel because Daniel was messing with him
around the street meat? Exactly.
Well, I got you to eat it, that was trust me, I got you to eat the street meat. And I wonder if Buck Cashman's going, wait a minute, I'll show you what messing with someone is.
Yeah, Buck is like, I got you to think it. Yeah. So this was really good. Yeah. I really enjoyed this kind of tense sequence between Buck and Daniel.
Absolutely. And just even the tie back to the fact that Wesley knew this guy, the two of them had worked together. One of the biggest, as we mentioned before, one of the biggest regrets of the original Daredevil season was that a character as good as Wesley was gone. Well, now we know at least his legacy lives on through Buck Cashman, and Buck Cashman is quite similar to Wesley. So Grant, we can now say our actual replacement for James Wesley is Buck Cashman. We like him a lot. Let's see him go on for another couple of seasons.
It also does have a very good little pun where Buck is talking about his time in Helmand in Afghanistan, and Daniel says, the mayonnaise?
Do you remember Helmand, the mayonnaise? No. Afghanistan. Yes. Really good. That was a creepy old story that Her Majesty's Secret Service were sent in to take out opium farmers. It turned out there were 14, but that didn't matter because that's what they were sent there to do. So you carry out the mission that your leader gives you. In that case, the Queen. In this case, Kingpin. I don't think the Queen literally sat down and said, kill the 14-year-old opium farmers. So. But it's Her Majesty's Secret Service, right? So, yeah.
No, it's the...
Sorry, that's SAS. Bond. Yeah. That's Bond, isn't it? Sorry.
I guess it's the SAS or the military of some... Yeah.
Regiment 22.
Yes.
That's what we know. Right. Excellent. I don't know enough about the Secret Service in the UK. All I know, I've learned from Bond and Austin Powers.
And Q. And Austin
Powers in some sense. Which actually, interestingly, is referenced in this episode. That is where Fembot comes from, is from the Austin Powers movies.
Yes.
So Lionel, Foggy's friend, or Foggy's friend's brother, must have been a fan of Austin Powers. There you go. That's a reason to let him live as well, isn't it, John?
I think so, absolutely.
Right, let's get on to our final case note for this episode. Tell me the story of how we met. I will say, when I wrote that down as the title for our case note, I did get a little tear in my eye, because I think it's such a beautifully played scene by Ayla Tsura, reprising the role here, of course, as Vanessa for this season. To think that when they originally greenlit Daredevil Born Again, Ayla Tsura wasn't going to be coming back. They were going to get a different actor in to play the role. And it feels like you just wouldn't have had the magnificence of this storyline, where you're able to do back to how they originally got together, how all of the chips falling the way that they fell led to the meeting of Wilson Fisk and Vanessa, and to this final scene of the two of them together. If you hadn't had Ayla Tsura coming back to the role, it just doesn't feel like it would be as impactful as it is here.
Well, that's it. I mean, the rabbit in the snowstorm is such an iconic sort of motif of Wilson Fisk from the Marvel Netflix shows. And this flashback in terms of, even with Vanessa going against her boss to actually display it, the fact that Wilson Fisk is there because, in a sense, Wesley doesn't trust Bitcoin, and is thinking, how about something a bit more blue chip, and we can basically clean our money through artworks.
It also feels so realistic. I know everybody talks about Bitcoin and how Bitcoin is used by criminal enterprises, but I'm sorry, have you seen what some paintings sell for? The hundreds of millions of quid for a terrible painting by a private buyer who will not be releasing the name, and it will go into their private collection. Yeah, it won't. It's just going to go into a back room, because the real deal was putting that 300 million quid washed through art washing, I guess, would be the way that they're doing it. That's what it feels like to me. So it was cool to have that. And I love Wesley going, I have contacts in crypto. If you want to go through crypto, you can, of course, but I have another idea for you. I know someone who owns an art gallery, and it turns out that is where Vanessa works. But I love the commentary that she has on Rabbit in the Snowstorm. She sees it and knows instantly it will sell. And her line to her boss, when the boss is saying, we can't put it up because it's basically just a white painting, Vanessa goes, if the right person sees his own deep, inexorable loneliness reflected back at him, you will not only sell it, you will sell it for 3 times the asking price.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah. And I love that in those final moments at the end of the episode as well, she says, you vastly overpaid for it.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, no, I didn't, because, it
led to us.
Yeah. And, that was the great thing. And again, the little reflection back with Foggy and Matt is, them meeting in the art gallery, as Vanessa says, it wasn't luck. It was the grand design.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I found this really poignant.
Yeah.
These final moments between these two, because in a sense, Vanessa, okay, yes, she's deeply embedded in his criminal organization. Yes, she's got her hands, delved in the muck along with, Wilson Fisk,
Absolutely.
But she's the one person that humanizes Wilson Fisk. She is the tempering to his animalistic instincts. In a sense, what the governor of New York State was able to identify in her in the previous episode. Yeah. And she humanizes Wilson Fisk. If that's gone, who else surrounds him that he has that kind of time with?
Yeah.
It's not Powell, it's not Buck Cashman, and it's not Daniel, and it's no one else. They're all, a paid assassin, a absolute psychopath in a uniform. It's a please all the time. Who knows? Man, yes man, effectively. So she's kind of the grounding a bit of Fisk in being able to almost as well portray being a mayor, a sane mayor. So it'll be interesting to see
it's going to be
what happens.
Terrifying to see. This is like pulling off the seal on a pressure cooker as it gets to its crescendo. Wilson Fisk will never be more angry than seeing his wife die and knowing that there's somebody out in the city, aka Bullseye, that killed her and is free. He is going to go wild. Next episode. I have no idea what way they're going to go.
I say retribution will also fall on the pineapple juice as well.
Well, I think so. Yeah. There's in these scenes when she wakes back up, she says to him, I want to have some pineapple juice. He asks, can I get you food? Can I get you drink? And it's just an interesting moment. And I remember saying this to John when we watched the episode. She says when she wants the juice, he reminds her that she always said she didn't like pineapple juice because it makes her lips all tingly. And I was going, well, that's a really interesting, very specific thing that he said. Like that's, if you eat something that you're allergic to, like when people eat seafood and they're allergic to seafood, they say their lips tingle. And then just after that, they say that that's when the throat kind of closes and they have to take their injection to reduce the reaction that they've had. And I was going, that's very specific that she has that. But Wilson Fisk, of course, is going to get her pineapple juice and she drinks a whole big old glass of it, while they're having this conversation. But it's such a beautifully written conversation where she says, tell me the story of how we met. And for a moment, Wilson Fisk has his Vanessa back and he's more than happy to entertain her by telling that story of both sides of what happened. He needed a deal to be done. She wanted to sell a painting. The alignment of the stars that led them to meet each other. Of course, he's going to recount that story to Vanessa, especially now that he has her back. And then she looks at him, smiles and says, tell me the story of how we met again, and can't finish the sentence as her brain starts to disconnect.
Well, you get the flat line, don't you?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
It's really kind of, it's a really good scene between these two.
Yeah.
So well done, so powerful, really emotional.
Yeah.
Even though they're the bad guys of the piece, in that sense.
But again, that's what makes this a great show, not just a good show. It's telling the story of all of the characters in here. It's called Daredevil, but it is really Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock as two central characters, as two sides of the same coin, two sides of the law, the good and bad guys, but it is a deep story. These are things that the reason why you have TV shows as well, rather than movies all the time, because TV shows can delve deep into characters and show you their other side, Yeah,
no, absolutely.
You want to have a character in a relationship who's properly in love with their partner. It doesn't matter whether they go out and kill people at night, or during the daytime in Wilson Fisk's case. You also want to see a rounded character, someone that does live in the world, and something that's been so central to that is the relationship with Vanessa.
It's also the rug being pulled under the feet of Fisk. He's so powerful. He's so kind of in control because of, in a sense, his caution in many respects and the people around him, including Vanessa. But he's so happy and animated because she's alive, but it's so short-lived, and he becomes, you see him becoming overwhelmed. And if the despair that you saw at the start of the episode where he tells Powell, I want them alive, you just know he will be going out himself to find them. Absolutely. So this was really, really good.
And I love how the episode closes just on the original Rabbit in a Snowstorm with the crashing of the waves, just that original scene of Wilson Fisk completely lost in the painting with Vanessa beside him, and then just the waves going into another silent closer for the episode. Really, really good. I think that's it for our major case notes. Is there any notes that you wanted to mention, John, that we haven't mentioned in the episode discussion at all?
No, nothing from me.
Nothing else from me. There's no post-credit scene on this episode. Our whiskey watch has come to naught. I know I need a whiskey after watching that episode. Definitely, maybe I'll make myself an old-fashioned once we finished our podcast, John. But overall, do you defend Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Episode 5?
Yeah, I really do. I really enjoyed this episode. Give it 5 Frataday nuts out of 5. I just thought it was really, really excellent. I loved how the use of the flashbacks here. I love getting to see old Wes back in action.
Absolutely.
The young Buck Cashman, Buck and Daniel driving to Albany. Just so good. This whole episode just was shaking with tension. And what, as you were talking about pressure cooker, what the pressure will release into New York as we go into episode 6. So, like, for me, that's just fantastic episode for me. So, 5 Saturday nuts out of 5.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's a 5 out of 5 for me as well. This is an excellent episode of Daredevil. One of the things I've loved most about this season is you watch an episode and you go, wow, that's the best episode of Daredevil ever. And then the next episode comes along and you go, wow, that was the best episode of Daredevil ever. So I don't think it's going to get better than this episode, and that's fine. This is a fantastic episode. If episode 6 isn't as good as this one, that's okay, right? Because I think we've reached a nadir here, being able to do the bridging of the original Netflix show with the Disney Plus Daredevil Born Again show, bringing together all of the characters from that show into this show. That's fantastic, and they've done such a good job here, and such an emotional story, and such a well done flashback and more within this episode. I think they've accomplished everything they could have. I'm in it for the long haul. I can't wait for the rest of this season. I'm delighted they have a season 3 in the bag that's going to be coming out hopefully next year as well. I'm really happy to stay with these characters for even longer, and especially now that this is really Daredevil season 5, which I love. So yes, fantastic.
Excellent stuff. I think it's time to head to Josie's bar for a nice whiskey, I think.
Yeah, we need a whiskey, as I said. Yeah.
Or maybe a pina colada to keep the pineapple juice theme going
that could
on
work.
this one.
Yeah, that could work. Excellent. Yes, on to our Josie's Bar quiz for season 2. John, we have our 5th question. Do you want to give us the question, please?
Yes, fellow defenders, fellow quizzers, here is question 5 of the pub quiz. How much money do Matt and Foggy have in their future fund?
Yeah, this is specifically what they say in the episode that they have in the future fund. John, do you want to get the question one more time?
Yeah, how much money does Matt and Foggy have in their future fund?
Fantastic. That's question 5 of 8 for the season. Get the answers down, and when you have them all correct at the end of the season, email them into us at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in the chance of getting your hands on some Daredevil Born Again goodies. We have got a bit of feedback in on episode 5, John. First up, we have Harrison Fox's voicemail for this episode.
Excellent.
Hello, fellow defenders. Harrison Fox calling again. For Daredevil season 2, episode 5, which was phenomenal. I always worry when there's a flashback episode, when it's been, several years since the last season or the last time we saw a character. Jesse Plemons in El Camino comes to mind. But they did a fantastic job with everyone in terms of having them look, I'm guessing, 10 years younger or so. No, awesome job. The episode in itself was so deep in its meaning and choices, and I really, really loved it. And that ending, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see last week's ending coming. I didn't see this week's ending coming. This show continues to surprise me over and over again, and I just have to give it 5 Hellmann's mayonnaise bottles out of 5. It was fantastic. I think, what do we have? 4 episodes left? Is it 9? I'm very excited to see an even more unhinged Wilson Fisk running things. It's going to be insane. All right. Can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Take care.
Fantastic, Harrison. I can hear in your voice how excited you were watching that episode as well. I think I had the same feeling after watching it too. It was such a good episode.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
And I love your out of 5. Yes, I should have thought of that.
Hellmann's bottles.
Yes. Instead, I've had to be bleeped.
Sorry, John.
I went for a
podcast.
I went for a cruder form of out of 5s.
That's right. We all have our out of 5s. There are 8 episodes this season. There were 9 last season, 8 this season. So just got 3 more left to go after this. Ooh, and hopefully Jessica Jones next week, and then the week after, and the week after that, but probably not. We should hopefully see her next week. Next week, though.
Definitely. But I totally agree, Harrison, around just how well this show, certainly for this episode, has sort of the depth of it, the surprises. I just think the interactions back to the old Netflix series, but all of it just works really, really nicely.
Absolutely. I think I even commented to John in the flashback that they even got Matt's terrible wig right from the flashback, because when they're doing flashbacks to their earlier time together, he always had that awful wig on for when they were in college together, and then the early days, and then when they got their own firm, his hair seems to be much better. It seems to be more natural. So whenever they stuck that terrible wig on, they obviously used something very similar for the flashbacks as well. So fantastic job. Thanks so much for that voicemail, Harrison.
Yeah, thanks, Harrison. On email, Coffee and Vodka says, greetings, fellow Remembrance defenders. Oh my effing gourd. This was the first episode of the year that had me staring at the screen minutes after it had finished, absorbing every scene of what I'd just watched. More than just member berries and soprano homage, this had me entirely wrapped up in all of its sincerity from beginning to end, all without a single hallway fight. Even Buck being folded into the weave by Wesley is now officially an honorary legacy character. Vanessa's send-off was beyond tastefully done, and the shitstorm forthcoming from Wilson's vengeance feels viscerally deserved. And so much Foggy. What a gift. Causes me to hope for his survival, a la Brubaker's classic Daredevil run. Come season 3. Soup to nuts, a masterpiece. Safe to say, the war has truly begun. 5 full circle rabbits, old school avocados, and bloody buddy cops out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and vodka.
Oh, old school avocados. I like that.
Yes. But you know how awful it is when avocados are old. I mean, you can hardly use any of them.
They only last a certain amount of time. They shine brightly.
Well, here in Ireland, it's generally they're either rock solid that you can use them to smash glass with, or they've become so mushy because you're waiting and waiting, and then all of a sudden they're so bruised and overripe that they're starting to turn black and all this, and it's like, oh, I don't know. Anyway. Enough of avocados and the challenges I face.
Yeah, absolutely. But for that one day, the guacamole is amazing. It is such a gift to be able to do an episode like this. You're absolutely right, Coffee and Vodka, being able to see those flashbacks. Really, really good. Great to see Foggy back on screen. Will we have the character back in the future? Look, it's comic book, Everybody has an opportunity of coming back in the future. I'm so glad they were able to work it into the show the way they have here, getting a full episode, really. A character development episode for Matt using his friend from his past. I think that works really, really well to bring the character back. Will they do something as big as they did in the comic books to bring him back? I'm just not sure if that would fit in with the overarching story of Born Again. I just don't know whether it would, would that turn viewers off that only watch the show if suddenly Foggy turns back up from out of hiding? I don't know.
Say it was the snap?
No, but we saw him die in the first episode.
I know, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Coffee and Vodka, really love your turn of phrase of the fact that Buck Cashman has been folded into the weave by Wesley. The weave by Wesley, I think, is what was why I so loved the character. He was just this master manipulator until hit by, just very clever, really on it, and then was caught out by Karen. But I just love that notion that you've suggested of Wesley weaving in Buck Cashman into the legacy. Either that, or it could actually become quite a nice tartan, maybe. The Wesley weave.
The Wesley weave. Absolutely. Absolutely. Great stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. We have an email in from Raina, who has another little reminder of who Buck Cashman might possibly be as well. Raina says, hello, lads. Hope you guys are having a splendid day. First episode this season I woke up early for, and what an episode it was. I actually teared up first time since season 3 of the original show. When Matt said, what are we celebrating? And Foggy said, mercy. And at the end of the episode, the last shot was Wilson and Vanessa. I teared up there as well. It definitely hit as it went beautifully full circle. Also, I adore the side characters this season. Buck and Daniel are absolutely fantastic. Michael Gandolfini acted his ass off to the point I actually started to question if he was going to get killed. Also, the fact that we now know Buck has been around for a long time excites me even more. It is implied that Buck was kind of a fixer who has done jobs for Fisk in the past, which ties in perfectly with season 1 of the original show, where there was a mysterious trail of quote-unquote suicides by some faceless fixer with implications that it's Buck's work, like the Union Allied workers, the prison guard, and the guy that Karen was accused of murdering. If this is actually the case, Buck is scary as feck. 4.5 Foggy the Fembots out of 5. Keep up the great work. Kindest regards from Belgium, Raina.
Thanks so much, Raina.
What a great reminder there, yeah.
Yeah, really good to get your thoughts, and yeah, that's a great reminder about the fixer. And I look, let's just say it's Buck. It's Buck's work.
Yeah.
Clearly he's got the smarts for, quickly in, quickly out, do the job, no fuss, no mess. Get the job done.
But if you want a creative person to go in rather than, Wesley would just go in and shoot them and kill them and walk away. If you need someone to do a creative kill, you call in Buck Cashman, the fixer, to set it up. I love that idea.
Agreed.
Really good.
However, the flaw in his plan for Ray was a delivery man for takeout. Where it's like, I've got your order here, because if you've never ordered it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That would definitely, given the heightened sense of Ray, he would be out there in a flash.
He knew someone was coming for him pretty quickly, didn't he? Yeah, so he was out of there. I wonder if he actually left because of Foggy's warning rather than being at the door when the delivery guy came. So I think he was already gone.
He was.
Otherwise, Buck would probably catch up to him pretty quickly.
Oh, no, he was. Definitely. That's how I took it. It's just that creativity was maybe not great. Yeah, but it was his first one. So
Exactly.
He got better. A lot better.
He got a lot better. Absolutely. That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Raina. Great to hear from you as well for the podcast. We hope to hear from you for the rest of the season as well.
Yeah, thanks so much, Raina. Over on Discord, Glomdy says, they got me with Vanessa. Foggy and Wesley in one episode. What a blessing. Yeah, completely agree there, Glomdy. Love the fact these two were back in an episode of Daredevil.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lobby. Also on Discord, Dr. Bob says, what an episode. A flashback story weaved into the ending of one and the lives of others. Was the anaphylaxis tingly lips are a sign of allergy or drug pineapple interaction? It's a bugger for mucking up medicines and leads to VF arrest that you shock for, but that death was magnificent. I thought Daniel was on his way out too, and Foggy. Marvellous, merciful, magnificent Foggy.
Indeed.
Love. Yeah, broken hearted.
Foggy.
Oh, you see the little phone call, the signal that Matt used to have for Foggy still plays in my brain every time I hear his name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really good. That's great, Dr. Bob, that you've confirmed something that I thought as well. Did Vanessa's drinking of that entire glass of pineapple also contribute to her death as well? Because I wondered, the fact that she mentioned the tingly lips, it's possible.
I love pineapple juice as well, so now I've gone off it.
But if you don't get tingly lips when you drink pineapple juice, that's okay.
Yeah, but it's like...
You don't have an allergy to it. That's the point.
Drug pineapple juice interaction.
But only because she's allergic to it. It's like if she'd taken that lobster from Bel Air diner and eaten that while she was in the hospital. If she said, Wilson, I want you to go down to Bel Air and get the lobster that I've been looking at for weeks.
With some pineapple juice and a side of peanuts.
Exactly. If she'd done that, then yes, a total bugger for her. Thanks for that, Dr. Bob.
Thanks so much, Dr. Bob. Also, Mathematician says, Foggy's back. Yes. Okay, it's a flashback return, but still, great to see him back in this episode. Nelson's childhood bully, Ray, needs representing, but still, he puts Foggy's masculinity down by calling him a fembot, implying he won't enjoy this case. More flashbacks for another returning character as Wesley advises Fisk to launder his money through artwork rather than Bitcoin. Matt gives his explanation for something that has bugged me since Season 1 of Born Again, and the insistence on saving Bullseye at all costs becomes clear. It's his guilty conscience at losing the plot when he threw Poindexter off the roof that is driving it. I can now rest in peace when my time comes. It does show, however, how brilliantly Scardapane and his team have done if they have you mulling over this stuff even when you aren't watching an episode. We then get the juxtaposition of Foggy educating Matt about his lack of empathy. Was it intentional from the writers to explain the confusion over why Matt goes above and beyond to save a life, whatever the consequences, only to immediately confuse you again by showing Foggy to be the empathetic one of the two, who actually then goes on to teach Matt how to be the better man? Great stuff. On a personal note, it feels boss to have picked up on the rabbit in a snowstorm connection from episode 4, as I'm someone who has never been any good at analysing storytelling, so I feel I might be improving a bit at it. Credit to the writers again for the way they have me thinking all the time about the show. More and more impressed with the acting of Gandolfini each week. The mayonnaise, brilliant. An ominous sounding conversation which scares the hell out of Daniel, who thinks Buck is on his loose lips, follows sunk ships, I think is the phrase. Yes, indeed. He is afraid he's about to die. We find out it was Wesley who introduces Buck to Fisk, tasking the English mercenary with finishing off Foggy's childhood bully, who is now free thanks to Nelson spotting a discrepancy in the search warrant. As Foggy wasted his time now that Buck is after Ray, Foggy has to be a nicer guy than anybody I've ever met. Are the parallel scenes of flashback, Foggy helping to save the life of somebody who didn't deserve his help, and Matt doing the same with Dex, intentionally done this way to show that Matt has learned what Foggy taught him. Just great to see Foggy back, to be honest. Matt decides not to leave Bullseye at the mercy of the task force, and Ray escapes. Is parallel scenes an actual thing in filmmaking? And is this what's happening here again? As I'm thinking Buck is about to kill a man in both of the scenes, but I was misled yet again.
Yep.
Karen is not happy with Matt for bringing Poindexter, and Vanessa comes through her surgery successfully, although it looks like some amnesia as she forgets about her slight allergy to pineapples, as well as the true nature of Fisk, and then she relapses and seemingly dies, leaving Kingpin distraught. Not as thrillingly explosive as the last episode, but the writing and acting here had me gripped throughout. Wonderful stuff. Not sure I've ever enjoyed a TV show like this before. The shovel or the saw? Who was in that car boot? Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much, mathematician. Certainly, I think it was the first mate, Salva. Christophe Salva.
It was definitely, we saw the captain of the ship getting shot in the head by Buck a couple of episodes ago, and then Buck also kills Christophe and the marshals back in episode 3 as well. So here they are in the boot in episode 5.
Yeah, and it's a lovely teaching exercise here across time and space with Foggy and Matt Murdock, and how it influences Matt's events in the present with Poindexter, Bullseye. So yeah, really, really good. I just think it was so well done. As I say, again, another really good use of flashbacks here, that have a real integrated feel to the episode, and between the flashbacks with it sort of mirroring one another around the grand design. Yeah. So yeah, really excellent stuff here from the writers and everyone, to be honest. It was a really good episode.
It was fab, but it's amazing when you think back to the days of the Netflix shows. There were 13 episode seasons for each of the shows, from Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, Daredevil and Iron Fist. And I remember when we were recording with Chris, our co-host, we would always get to episode 6 and we go, right, next episode, that's the flashback episode of the show where they go back and tell you something about the past of Jessica Jones or of Luke Cage or of Matt Murdock. And it would always be, okay, this is how they've laid out the program. The program is 6 episodes of the show. You get to your flashback episode. It tells you something new, and then you close out the show with that knowledge. This is so different in this one episode, just giving you an indication of why Matt became the person he became, and also in the specific circumstance why Matt is choosing not to let Poindexter die. if he can help it in any way possible because of the inspiration from his friend Foggy when they were younger. Like, that's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, really love the difference in what they've done here. While paying respect to the original shows, they're also doing something different with it, and so well as well. Thank you so much to all of you who've sent in your feedback to us. Of course, you can keep sending that in for this episode or any episode that we cover to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. And we will, of course, be back next time with our chat all about Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, Episode 6, Requiem.
And we will also be back with our next question in the Josie's Bar Quiz. If you're missing Chris, he is over with Derek discussing Invincible Season 4. That's out currently on Prime Video.
Yeah, a 10 out of 10 episode for Invincible this week. The penultimate episode of Season 4 of Invincible is fantastic. If you're not watching it, go check it out.
Yeah, one episode left. And of course, paralleling Invincible, we are around watching the final season of The Boys as well at the moment.
Yeah.
Hence probably why I used an expletive in my out of 5.
But we can't use expletives on The Boys, which makes it a lot more fun. But it's the fact that we've been talking about and watching The Boys, which is just impacting our normal language as well. We will, of course, be recording our thoughts on this week's episode of The Boys, the 3rd episode of the final season of The Boys. Myself and John will be talking about that later on this week as well. But thanks so much for joining us for our Daredevil Born Again podcast. We'll talk to you again next time.
Absolutely. Thanks again, fellow Defenders, for joining us until our next episode. Keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep defending.
Bye.
Bye.